We have all heard stories of heroic explorers setting sail on stormy seas in pursuit of discovering new land. But the iconic figure of this story has had such a lasting impact that his name is still very visible in today's world. His name ripples through the pages of travel, bravery, and discovery, playing an instrumental role in raising recognition of North America's geography, particularly its northeastern waterways. As a tribute, several bodies of water he explored were named after him, including Hudson Bay, the Hudson River, and the Hudson Strait. Let's go back in time to the 17th century and dive into the intriguing story of Henry Hudson. Born in London somewhere in 1565, Henry Hudson is a renowned name in the books of adventure and discovery. Raised in a world of exploration and trade, Henry had a lifelong fascination with the water and shores from childhood. It was a time when European nations like the Netherlands and England aggressively sought new passes and routes to Asia for economic purposes. These initiatives were spurred by the need for direct access to priceless Asian goods and hence led to handsome career opportunities for sailors. Henry Hudson became such a sailor and quite an experienced one, hence why the Muscovy Company in London hired him to find a northeast passage to the Pacific coast of Asia. In 1607, on his first voyage for the company, he explored Greenland's coast aboard the ship named the Hopewell, while his 1608 voyage took him to the islands of Novaya Zemlya. It was thought that there would be an ice-free sea around the North Pole. Unfortunately, he ran into freezing conditions and could not discover a viable path without being blocked by ice fields. Yet his expeditions improved his geographic knowledge tremendously. In the early 17th century, the Dutch gained great popularity for their maritime trade and discovery skills. During this period, the Dutch East India Company, an iconic trading organization, strove to expand its dominance by establishing new trade routes to Asia. Henry Hudson's reputation as a skilled seaman grew over time. As a result, shortly after his second trip, he was lured to Amsterdam to make a third northeast voyage in the name of the Dutch East India Company. While awaiting orders and supplies in Amsterdam, he heard rumors of two possible channels to the Pacific across North America, creating a Northwest Passage. Although his interest in this Northwest Passage peaked, Hudson agreed to return directly to Holland if the northeast voyage ended up unsuccessful. The Dutch East India Company gave him a ship called the Half Moon and a crew of seasoned sailors. With this newly formed alliance, Hudson began an endeavour to discover a northeast passage to Asia. However, this voyage did not go as was discussed. In April 1609, the ship sailed away from the familiar shorelines and into the great unknown. Guided by Hudson's spirit and expertise, the Half Moon sailed through the waters of the Atlantic. As the crew set sail, the Half Moon smoothly glided across the waves. However, after a month and a half, winds, storms, and ice blocks forced Hudson to abandon his northeast voyage. He decided to ignore his agreement with the Dutch and proposed to the crew that they should seek the Northwest Passage. This is when they cruised along the majestic river that later would be known as the Hudson. After following it for about 240 kilometers to the vicinity of what is now Albany, New York, Hudson declared that the river did not lead to the Pacific and decided to make their way back to Holland. Once docked at Dartmouth, England in November, he was detained by authorities who wanted access to his logs. The English government ordered that Hudson and the English members of his crew were no longer allowed to conduct explorations for other countries. His log and paper were sent to Holland. A few years after, this laid the foundation for the Dutch to claim the region and the establishment of a trading post in Albany in 1614. They also established a settlement at the southern tip of Manhattan Island called New Amsterdam. This later became New York City. In the face of frozen barriers and wilderness, Henry Hudson began his quest under the English flag in search of the Northwest Passage to Asia. Departing from London on April 17, 1610, in a new ship called the Discovery, Henry Hudson began his most ambitious adventure to discover the Northwest Passage, with an obsessive desire to find a direct route to Asia. The journey encircled challenges as the days grew into weeks and the weeks grew into months. The crew battled short supplies, frostbite, and the constant threat of ice framing their ship. Despite obstacles, Hudson's search for the Northwest Passage inspired him to achieve bold wins. He studied and recorded the area's topography, while travelling extensive parts of the Arctic shoreline. However, Henry's pursuit of the Northwest Passage was hampered by difficulties and remained undiscovered for subsequent explorers to pursue. The ship was imprisoned in the cold grip of the Arctic and became unfit for further exploration. As the conditions went from bad to worse, a mutiny broke out, due to dissatisfaction among crew members. As a result, Hudson, his adolescent son, and 7 devoted crew members were consequently renounced at sea on a small open boat. Unfortunately, the fate of Henry Hudson and the crew following him remains a baffling mystery. No more was ever heard of Hudson, as their final days were tucked in the cold Arctic. Claiming the glory he deserved, Hudson undertook 4 adventurous voyages against all odds. If it wasn't for the mutiny in 1611, he was unbeatable. Whether it be the harsh Arctic winter or the dangers of unknown territories, he overcame it all, only to fall prey to the unpredictable sea. Nevertheless, he will be remembered for his great discoveries and explorations. What do you think happened to this fearless explorer? Do you think he felt trapped in hostile conditions and met his fatal fate? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting tales like this.